My stepfather tried to sell my house behind my back. I stopped it with one email. He showed up screaming, threw a chair, got arrested while the neighbors clapped, and my mom just stood there, crying. I got back to Michigan on a gray Thursday morning, the kind of overcast sky that felt like it was warning me. My flight had landed early, so I figured I'd surprise Mom with breakfast on the way. I even picked up her favorite, sausage biscuit with honey. But when I pulled into the driveway of the old house on Fairmount Avenue, something felt wrong. There was a white sedan parked in front, engine still running. The front door was wide open. A box of old tools sat on the porch next to a faded, for sale sign lying face down on the grass like someone had yanked it out last minute. I got out slowly. My boots crunched over gravel that hadn't been raked in months, even though I paid the kid down the street to do that every week. Inside, I heard voices. "And here's the kitchen, still original tile," said a voice I knew too well. Dante, my stepfather. His tone slick and fake, like he was reading off a cue card. "What the hell is going on?" I asked, stepping into the house. 3 people turned to look at me, Dante, a young couple holding hands, and my mother, standing silent behind them, arms crossed like she didn't know where to put them. "Seth," Dante said, too cheerful. "Didn't know you were back already. No one told me the house was for sale." The couple looked awkward, backing up a step. Dante gave a small laugh. "It's just a showing. We've had a lot of interest. Your mother and I figured it was time to move on. You've got your own place now, after all." I looked at my mother. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Move on," I said, louder now. "I've been paying the taxes on this house for years. I did the plumbing last winter. Replaced the shingles." "What the hell do you mean, move on?" "Come on, Seth," Dante said, waving a dismissive hand. "You don't even live here anymore. It's too much house for 2 people. My jaw clenched. It was Dad's house. "He's gone," Dante snapped, quieter but sharper. And still, Mom said nothing. The couple muttered something about coming back another time and slipped out the door. I didn't stop them. "You didn't even call me," I said. "You didn't ask. You didn't include me." Dante shrugged. "It's a done deal, kid. You're not on the deed." That wasn't true. I knew it wasn't. After Dad passed, he had the foresight to leave half the property in my name. Something about making sure it stayed in the family. I looked at my mother one last time. Her lips were pressed thin, her eyes cast down. Not even a whisper. Not even sorry. I didn't say another word. I walked out back, through the broken screen door, into the workshop that still smelled like sawdust and oil. Most of the tools were gone. But on the workbench, covered in a cloth, was Dad's old ham radio. The one he used to let me tune when I was a kid. I picked it up, cradled it like something fragile. Then I went back to my truck, sat in the front seat, and pulled out my phone. I opened up a blank email, typed in our family lawyer's address, and started writing. Short, to the point. After I hit send, I didn't look back. The house might still be standing, but something inside it had already collapsed. The email was short, just a reminder of the deed structure and a request to halt any unauthorized real estate transactions. I copied in Dante, even though I knew it would piss him off. That was the point. Back at my apartment, I turned my phone face up on the kitchen table and waited. It didn't take long. The first missed call came in about an hour later. Then another. And another. Dante's name lit up the screen like a damn slot machine, all caps, angry. I didn't answer. He left voicemails. The first one was all fake calm. "Hey, Seth, can we talk this over?" The second was annoyed. The third, fourth, and fifth were borderline shouting. By the 7th, he was begging. I made coffee and sat by the window, listening to his anger like it was background music. The more desperate he sounded, the better the coffee tasted. Then came the text from Mom. Just one line. "We need to talk." I didn't reply. Funny how now she wanted to talk. I spent the rest of the afternoon doing nothing. Just sitting, thinking, letting the quiet stretch out. My apartment smelled like cedarwood and old paper. I hadn't unpacked my boxes from last year, and somehow that felt fitting. For years, I sent money to cover the property taxes. I helped patch drywall. I even paid to get the water heater replaced after the basement flooded. And every time, Dante acted like I was just doing my duty, like I was some extension of his to-do list. But I didn't do all that for Dante. I did it for Dad, for what the house meant. He built that workshop with his own hands. Half the neighborhood came over when we installed the new fence together. It wasn't just a house, it was a piece of him. That was the part they didn't understand. Around 5:30, Jasmine called. "You really sent the lawyer email?" she asked, skipping the hello. "Yeah. I'm not letting him sell the house," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Good. Mom's freaking out. Dante's losing it. I think he thought you wouldn't fight back. He always thinks that." "Well, you did. You already stopped the sale, right?" "Yep. At least until the lawyer finishes freezing the transfer paperwork." She let out a breath. "Good. Just be ready. He's not going to let this go. I'm counting on it." After we hung up, I checked my email. The lawyer had already replied. "Thank you for the heads up, Seth. I'll take care of it." That was all I needed. I looked out the window as the sun dipped behind the city skyline. It was quiet now, but not for long. The storm was coming. And this time, I wasn't running from it. Dante showed up at my apartment the next morning, just after 9. I knew he'd come eventually. The man only knew 2 speeds, smug and desperate. Today, he looked like someone had wrung him out and hung him on a clothesline. I didn't even get a knock, just loud pounding. I opened the door to find him already mid-rant. You had no right, Seth. None. Do you know what you've done? Yeah, I said, leaning against the doorframe. I stopped an illegal sale. He barreled past me into the apartment like he still owned something. You've ruined everything, he barked, pacing like a cornered animal. The buyers are threatening to sue. The paperwork was already in process. And none of that matters, I said calmly, walking over to the kitchen counter and pulling out a folder. Because this, I opened it and held up the deed. Says I'm a co-owner. Which means you can't sell Jack without my signature. He froze. You're bluffing. Am I? I slid the paper across the table. He didn't move to pick it up. You think you're so clever, he said, jaw tight. What? You just want to watch us drown in maintenance and taxes. You don't even live there. I laughed, just once sharp. Neither do you. You're just squatting in a life that was never yours to begin with. He flinched like I'd hit him. You think this is about property? About money, I said, stepping toward him. You gave away his tools, Dante. You cleaned out Dad's workshop like it was junk. He scoffed. They were rusted. Worthless. I donated what I could. You didn't even ask. They were just tools, Seth. I could feel my fists clench. They weren't just tools. They were his. You don't get that. You never did. Dante pointed a finger at me. You think this house is your legacy? It's a burden. And your mother agrees with me. Does she? I asked, my voice colder now. Because she sure hasn't said anything. He opened his mouth to speak, but stopped short when I sat down at the table and pulled out another document. The email from the lawyer, confirming a freeze on any sale until ownership could be reviewed. You're not going to win this, he said quietly. Then why are you sweating through your shirt? He looked down, flustered. After a long silence, I said, there's going to be a dinner. Family only. You, me, Mom, Jasmine. We sit down. We talk. We do this right. His eyes narrowed. You think this is a negotiation? No, I said, standing. I think it's your last chance to come out of this looking like anything other than a liar with an expired real estate license. He didn't deny it. Dinner's Sunday at 6. Don't be late. He left without another word, slamming the door behind him. I stood there for a moment, then turned and picked up the folder again. This wasn't over, but the rules of the game had changed. Sunday came with heavy clouds and a pressure in the air that made everything feel like it might snap. The dining room still looked the same as it did when Dad was alive. Polished table, old floral curtains, a faded painting of Lake Superior on the wall. But the energy in the room? That was new. I got there 5 minutes early. Jasmine was already seated, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Dante was next to her, stiff as a mannequin. My mother was in her usual spot at the end of the table, hands in her lap, not looking at anyone. Nobody said anything for a full minute. Let's get to it, I said, sliding a folder onto the table. Dante sighed. This again. This, I said, tapping the folder, is 5 years of bills, repair costs, property tax receipts, all in my name. All paid by me. Mom flinched a little. Jasmine looked away. I opened the folder and fanned out a few of the receipts like a dealer laying down a winning hand. I've put over 20 grand into this house since Dad passed. You think I was doing that for fun? Dante leaned back, trying to look unimpressed. You act like we didn't pay for anything. Your mother and I. Your name's not on a single utility. Not one tax record. The only thing you've contributed is a broken fence and that rusted lawnmower you never fixed. Jasmine snorted. Dante shot her a look. I also found this, I added, pulling out a printed screenshot. A disciplinary letter from the State Real Estate Board. Your license expired last year. You're not even legally allowed to facilitate a sale. That wiped the smirk off his face. Is this true? Jasmine asked, turning to him. Dante didn't answer. He just reached for his glass of water and took a long sip like it might wash the truth away. Look, he finally said. We're trying to move on. This house, it's too big. It's falling apart. We thought if we sold it, split the proceeds. There's nothing to split, I said flatly. You're not an owner. You married into this. That doesn't make you landlord of Dad's legacy. Dante's face darkened, but I didn't let up. Also, I continued, you might want to check the HOA bylaws. Any property sale that includes structural changes needs community approval. Dante blinked. What changes? Your buyers want to add a second story. That's on the permit application. And the HOA doesn't allow changes that alter the historical profile of the block. Mom looked up, startled. Is that true? Yep. And guess who's on the HOA board now? Silence. Jasmine gave me a sideways glance. You didn't. I did. Bought 2 of the rentals down the street last year. HOA votes are based on property count. Dante leaned forward. You're playing dirty. I leaned right back. No. I'm playing smart. Something you should have tried. My mother finally spoke, voice quiet. I didn't know about the second story. Of course you didn't, I said. Because he doesn't tell you things. He just acts and expects you to stay silent. Dante slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. What's ridiculous, I shot back, is thinking you could erase Dad's legacy and walk off with a profit. He stood like he might say more, but Jasmine cut in. We're not selling the house, she said calmly. Not now. Not like this. Dante stared at her, stunned. Fine, I said. Now we're getting somewhere. Dinner ended not with dessert, but with Dante storming out. Mom stayed seated, her eyes wet, finally looking at me, really looking. And for the first time, I didn't look away. The HOA meeting started at 6 sharp in the community center on Elmsbury Lane. I got there at 5:30, just to be sure I had my spot at the front. Mrs. Rodriguez, who had lived 2 doors down from us since I was a kid, was already setting out cookies and a stack of agendas. She gave me a smile when I walked in. Your father would have been proud of the way you've handled things. Thanks, I said. I wasn't sure if I believed it, but I appreciated it all the same. I took my seat, folder in hand, just like I had at the dinner table. Except this time, I wasn't dealing with family. I was dealing with neighbors, people who had known my dad for decades, people who remembered when we hosted 4th of July barbecues and passed around bowls of his chili during blizzards. By 6:15, the room was full. Mr. Patterson from across the street nodded at me as he walked in, the same Mr. Patterson who coached high school wrestling with my dad back in the day. A couple of other homeowners I hadn't seen in years gave me small waves. Jasmine slipped in quietly and took a seat near the back. And then, right as Mrs. Rodriguez stood to call the meeting to order, Dante arrived. He looked like hell. Hair slicked back with too much gel, red tie slightly askew, holding a worn briefcase like it could still intimidate people. He paused when he saw me, then forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Glad to see so much community interest tonight, he said, too loud. Mrs. Rodriguez ignored him and started the meeting. We went through the usual motions, budget review, security lighting, landscaping, until we reached new business. That was my cue. I stood, cleared my throat, and spoke directly to the board. I'd like to bring attention to a proposed sale on Fairmount Avenue. The buyer has submitted a request to add a second story to the property. According to Section 4B of the HOA bylaws, any structural changes that alter the visual integrity of the neighborhood require a community vote and majority approval. Dante stood up immediately, voice booming. This is ridiculous. We've already got verbal interest from the buyer. You're just trying to stall. I didn't flinch. I'm not stalling. I'm protecting this neighborhood. My dad helped write those bylaws. The house in question was built in 1958. It's on the list of historically significant homes. You change the roof line, you change the identity of this whole block. Murmurs rippled through the room. And, I added, as a current property owner and board member, I'm exercising my right to call a vote to reject the alteration request. Dante's face turned red. You can't do that. Mrs. Rodriguez turned to him, her voice crisp. Actually, he can. I'd also like to point out, I said, pulling out a printed page, that Mr. Dante Wilson's real estate license expired last August. Any property transactions he facilitated under that title since then could be considered invalid. That did it. The room went silent. Dante opened his mouth, then closed it again. No one came to his defense. Mr. Patterson raised his hand. Let's vote. It was unanimous. The sale was blocked. Dante stormed out 5 minutes later, his briefcase banging against the door on the way out. I stayed behind, helped Mrs. Rodriguez stack chairs. As we worked, she looked over at me and said, You saved that house. I nodded, not smiling. Not just the house. The apartment was quiet when I got home that night. I dropped my keys in the dish by the door and sank into the couch without even taking off my shoes. My phone was already vibrating on the coffee table. Missed call, Dante. Voicemail, Dante 3. Text, You think this is over? You think you won? I silenced the screen and leaned my head back. But yeah, I had won. At least the first round. The HOA vote had crushed his plans. No sale. No remodel. No easy payout. All his sneaky paperwork and whispered deals had collapsed under the weight of one thing he never expected, someone standing up to him. I poured a drink. Just a splash of bourbon. The kind Dad used to sip on Friday nights when the lawn was mowed and the world felt just right. Then my phone buzzed again, Jasmine this time. Jasmine. She's ready to leave him. I stared at the message for a while before calling her. She said that. I asked as soon as Jasmine picked up. Yeah, she said. After the meeting, she just sat in the kitchen, quiet for like an hour. Then she said, I think I've been afraid of the wrong thing. She's done, Seth. My chest felt tight, not from sadness, but something like relief. Like a splinter finally working its way out. I don't know what to say, I told her. Then don't say anything, she replied. Just come by tomorrow. She wants to talk to you. For a moment, all I could do was nod into the phone. After we hung up, I stared out the window. From my apartment, I could see the edge of the city park, where the trees swayed gently in the wind. Something about it felt symbolic, like even nature was starting to settle. Then, the text started coming in, but not from family. Neighbors. Mr. Patterson, hell of a thing you did tonight. Proud of you, kid. Mrs. Rodriguez, I made extra cookies. Come get some. The Delgados from next door. If you ever want help restoring the workshop, count us in. I hadn't expected that. I thought people would just be glad it was over, if they even cared. But they did. They remembered Dad. They remembered the barbecues and the garage open on Saturday mornings, music playing while he fixed up lawnmowers for free. They saw me standing up for that. And suddenly, I wasn't just the kid who left home to get a job in the city. I was Seth again, Tom Walker's son, part of something. I looked over at the old ham radio on my shelf, the one I rescued from the workshop. I hadn't even plugged it in yet, but I would. The night felt quiet in a different way now. Not like something was missing, more like something was beginning. And yeah, Dante was still out there, fuming, plotting. But it didn't matter. He was on the outside now. The call came at 6:30 in the morning. I was still in bed when Jasmine's name lit up my screen. Something's happening, she said, her voice tight. You need to get over here. I didn't ask questions. I just threw on jeans and a hoodie and drove. By the time I got to the house, the street was already buzzing. Neighbors stood on porches. A few were out on the sidewalk, phones in hand, recording. Dante was in the front yard, shirt half-buttoned, hair wild, screaming. You think this is yours? He shouted at the house like it had personally offended him. I built this family. I held it together. He hurled a lawn chair at the porch railing. It bounced off with a hollow crack and landed sideways in the grass. He was red in the face, pacing like a caged animal, shouting slurs about the HOA, the snakes who turned against him, and most of all, me. Jasmine was on the porch, arms wrapped around Mom, who looked pale and stunned. Mrs. Rodriguez stood nearby, filming with a steady hand. I parked at the curb and stepped out slowly, letting Dante see me. He turned, eyes bloodshot, face twisted with rage. You, he roared, stumbling forward. You think you're the big man now, huh? Ruining my life? Making a joke out of me in front of the whole neighborhood? You did that yourself, I said, stepping onto the walkway. I just made sure everyone saw it. Don't play smug, he spat. I've still got friends downtown. You think a neighborhood vote and some technicality are going to stop me? I'll bury you in paperwork. You're not licensed, I said calmly. You can't even legally file most of the things you're threatening. And the city attorney already got my email. Good luck bluffing your way through that. Dante looked like he was about to explode. And then, right on cue, he lunged. I braced myself not to hit back, but to hold my ground. But before he could reach me, a figure stepped in between us. Mr. Patterson, still built like the coach he once was, even in his 60s. He caught Dante by the arms and held him like a misbehaving teenager. Don't be stupid, Mr. Patterson said, voice calm but firm. This isn't your house. And you're not going to touch this boy. Let go of me, Dante shouted, thrashing uselessly. By now, 2 squad cars had pulled up. Officers stepped out, slow and professional. Sir, one of them said, we've had multiple calls about your behavior. You're going to need to calm down and come with us. This is harassment, Dante yelled. You're all in on it. This is a setup. The officer didn't argue. He just pulled out cuffs. I'll sue, Dante screamed, even as the cuffs clicked shut around his wrists. The neighbors watched in silence as he was led to the car, still flailing, still shouting. Then someone clapped. Just once. Then another. And suddenly, the whole block was applauding. Not cheering, not mocking, just a slow, deliberate rhythm that said, we saw. We know. And we're done with him, too. I looked at my mother. She was crying, but for the first time in years, it wasn't the scared kind of cry. Jasmine slipped her arm through mine. You did it, she said quietly. No, I said, watching as the cruiser door closed behind Dante. We did. A week after Dante's arrest, the house didn't feel cursed anymore. It felt tired, beat up, a little hollow, but not beyond saving. The day Mom officially filed for legal separation, I brought donuts to the kitchen. Jasmine brought coffee. Mom didn't say much, just took a jelly-filled one and kissed both of us on the forehead like she used to. And then we got to work. The first day was just cleaning. The workshop had been gutted, stripped bare by Dante and whatever shady donation place he used. But the frame was still solid. The windows still let in that good, golden afternoon light. We started by sweeping out the dust, the spider webs, the smell of mildew, and bad memories. The next day, Mrs. Rodriguez showed up with a toolbox and a folding chair. I kept your dad's socket set, she said matter-of-factly. He loaned it to my husband in '03. Never asked for it back. Then Mr. Patterson came by with 2 sawhorses and a box of old clamps. The Delgado twins brought over what they'd salvaged from a teardown job. By the end of the week, half the neighborhood had contributed something. Turns out, Dante had tossed more than just tools. He tried to throw away a legacy. But the neighbors? They'd held on to pieces of it without even realizing. One night, we pulled out the old workbench from storage. It had a busted leg, but Jasmine and I propped it up and started sanding down the top. That's when we found it, a small, rusted tin box screwed beneath the surface. It took a few minutes and a flathead screwdriver to open it. Inside was a folded sheet of paper. A letter, yellowed and creased. It was from Dad. If you're reading this, then the shop is still standing. That means something. This place isn't just where I worked. It's where I taught you how to use your hands, where we fix things instead of throwing them away. That's what we do. We take care of what matters. And if someone tried to tear this place down, I hope to God you stop them. I read it twice, then passed it to Mom. She cried softly. Jasmine just stared at the ceiling for a long time, blinking hard. That was the day I decided the shop wouldn't just be a memory. It would be a beginning. We cleared out the front room of the house, the one with the big window and the unused space that always felt a little aimless. Turned it into a community workshop. Brought in a few benches, hung up the sign Jasmine made, the Walker Room. Started with Saturday open hours for neighborhood kids. Just little projects, birdhouses, coat racks, repairs for neighbors who needed a hand. It spread faster than I expected. By the second month, we had parents asking if they could help. Retired guys bringing in old tools. Teenagers coming by after school just to sand something, to be part of something. The same way Dad used to welcome anyone who needed a space, we did the same. Mom smiled more now. Jasmine started talking about starting her own carpentry side business. And I stopped feeling like everything had been lost. Because it hadn't been. Dante had tried to sell off a house like it was just another asset. But he never understood what made it valuable. It wasn't drywall or shingles. It wasn't a patch of grass with a for sale sign. It was this. People rebuilding together. Memories passed down. And hands, young and old, building something new, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. Dad didn't leave a fortune. He left something better. And we made sure it lasted. 6 months later, the house didn't just feel different, it felt alive. The grass had grown and greener, the front door had a new coat of deep red paint, and laughter from the workshop windows carried down the block on Saturday mornings. I used to walk past this place and feel anger curl in my stomach. Now, I smiled every time I turned into the driveway. Mom stayed in the house, but she wasn't alone anymore. Jasmine moved back in temporarily to help run the new community workshop, and neighbors dropped by so often we had to make a schedule just to manage the traffic. Kids came in droves, some just to build things, others to sit and watch, to listen, to belong. It became more than we expected, more than Dad probably imagined. But I like to think he'd be proud. On the legal side, the separation was finalized. Dante didn't contest it. He couldn't. Not after the trespassing charge, the license investigation, and the multiple complaints filed against him. The man who once tried to sell our history was now a footnote. Word was, he moved out of state. No one's heard from him since. And no one really cared. The town paper even ran a short piece on the workshop. Local family revives historic home with community spirit. They called us a quiet example of resilience. I didn't care about the attention. But the look on Mom's face when she read the article was something I'll never forget. Peace came in small things. Freshly brewed coffee on quiet mornings. Hearing Jasmine hum while organizing tools. Watching a kid beam with pride over their first finished birdhouse. One Sunday, we all went to Charlie's Diner for breakfast. Just me, Jasmine, and Mom. The same booth we used to sit in with Dad, back when life was simpler. We laughed. We didn't talk about Dante. Didn't need to. There was nothing left to say about him. After we ate, we walked back home together, and for the first time in years, the silence between us wasn't heavy. It was easy, comfortable. As we reached the porch, I paused for a second and looked at the house. Same shape, same bones, but everything about it felt new, fresh. This place is never going on the market, I said, mostly to myself. Jasmine nodded. Good, because we've still got 2 windows to fix and a whole list of summer projects. Mom chuckled as she unlocked the door. You two are worse than your father. No one's worse than him, I said, stepping inside. We're just finally catching up. She smiled, really smiled. The kind of smile I hadn't seen from her in years. Later that night, as I sat on the porch with a cold drink and the sounds of cicadas in the distance, I thought about what Dad used to say. A house is just wood and nails. But a home? That's the people inside it. He was right. And now, for the first time in a long time, we had a home again. Not just for us, but for everyone who walked through that front door looking for something solid. Something real. Something worth keeping.